Hello everyone. So happy to meet you back. In the previous videos, we were discussing about interviews, why there is a need for interview, different kinds of interviews, and our focus was on job interviews. We have seen different kinds of job interviews for freshers, experienced persons, and we have seen how to get ready for the job interview as well. In this video, we will be looking into a verbal and a non-verbal cues that are to be followed in an interview. And when I say interview, I always mean a job interview. What do I mean by verbal and non-verbal cues? And why there is a stress in using proper verbal and proper non-verbal? From the word itself, you know very well, when I mean verbal, it can be speaking, listening, and when I say non-verbal, it always reflects to other than speaking and listening, which means that how I am supposed to behave with my gestures. So that's very important. So what are the things we are going to see? So in today's video, we'll be learning more about what are the verbal cues that we must be following and what are the non-verbal cues we must be following to be very successful. So we were always talking about being very successful, not ordinary. I believe you're all extraordinary students as well, extraordinary employees. So I think whatever we discuss in the video will make you much better person to face an interview, a job interview. So when I say verbal cues, just look into the information which I have shared. I have mentioned the voice modulation, listening skills, clear and concise, being polite, asking questions, interactive. Probably if you happen to look into a web, you must have got much more information, I believe. But I want to be very precise, very clear, to the core, and I should not give you any confusing statements. That's the reason why I have brought all the verbal cues under these 6 categories. So let's see one by one. So what is the first verbal cue which is very important is your voice modulation. When I say voice modulation, just imagine that my lecture which you are listening now is with same voice. Hey, hi everyone, how are you? It's been so good to meet you. Are you happy? I'm also happy. Are you not happy? I'm also not happy. And if I'm going to talk like this for 30 minutes or 40 minutes with the content that I am supposed to deliver it to you, you will lose patience. You will lose interest. And again, you don't feel like listening to my lecture anymore because that is what I mean as voice modulation. When a speaker happen to have no change in the articulation, or if there are no changes in the voice when and wherever it is required, then it is called as a deaf man language. What do I mean here? I mean nobody will be interested to listen to you. Just look into some of the examples in real time. Have you listened to the voice of Abdul Kalam? See the way he talks, with good articulation. He gives a lot of examples, expressions, and that will really take the message he wanted to convey to us. The message that he conveyed reached us the way he wanted it to happen, and the reason is that he played with his voice. He talks loudly, he will make fun, he will come down, he'll be very slow sometimes, very clear, and that has mesmerized people and made people to listen to him. I can give you another example. I don't know how many of you have listened to Obama, the then US president, or you just take any leaders in the world. They were very successful, or in other words, I can say, the existing leaders across the globe are very successful because they have a commanding voice. Commanding doesn't mean that, it is a monopoly voice. They have variations in the pitch. There is a crest, there is a trough whenever they happen to give a speech. They know when to raise their voice, when to be very normal voice, and when to use a very polite voice. And that is the success of their leadership as well. So the success of all these leaders, if you just look into the reason, one of the reason is the voice modulation. And again, we also should agree that content also plays a vital role. But voice modulation will make a listener more energetic and will make them to sit and observe for a long time. How this is related to an interview? Let's imagine that you are sitting in front of a company person, or in other words, I can say the interviewer. And whatever questions they ask you, imagine that you are going to give an answer. It can be a correct answer, it can be a wrong answer, but imagine that you are going to give them an answer in the same voice, without rise or without fall, no expressions, and just look into the reaction from the interviewer. They will think that this guy has no interest in the interview, no expression of happiness or joy. Everything is reflected in your voice. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, please mind, your voice is going to win the crowd. And when it can win a crowd, and after all, an interviewer can be really happy with your voice, don't forget that. So that's the reason why I have jotted voice modulation as a very important aspect when it comes to verbal cues. The second important aspect is the listening skills. What do I mean by listening skills? Sir, in an interview, I'm supposed to talk. What I'm going to listen? Hello, my dear, please keep in mind, you're going to answer for a question. For answering a question, you'll be listening first of all. And why I emphasize more on listening skills? It's very simple. Let's imagine that the interviewer is asking you a question. Maybe he can be from a different part of the India, or he can be from different part of the globe. His accent may be different, his pronunciation may be different, his language have mother tongue influence. But usually, interviewer will ensure to have a fair communication, and they will make sure that the question is very clear. Now let's see the other end. Who is in the other end? It's we. We have different kinds of education. We come from different regional backgrounds. We have mother tongue influence. So the way we understand the question is very important to give an optimum answer. What do I mean by optimum answer? Relevant and correct answer, for which your listening skills must be really good. Let's say that he's asking about a cat, and if you're going to talk about a snake, probably the expected answer from you is not reachable. So naturally, the interviewer may have to take a decision which may be against your interest. So why listening is very important? First of all, to give an apt answer, you must understand the question, for which your listening skill must be really good. So what I try to say here, whenever there is a time for a question, please make sure that you pay attention. I have seen a lot of students who is very poor in listening and miserably failed in interviews. How do I know it? I have listened to them. I have got a feedback from them, and they used to tell me, sir, I think I have not answered them to their expectation. And I was not so clear with some of the questions. I failed to ask them back. So as a cause, I got rejected in the interview. So boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, please make it a point. Your listening skills is very important. Pay attention, be very alert. I understand that some of you may be nervous, some of you may be restless. You must be traveling from a very long distance to the interview place. You must be restless, you must be tired. But what is the reason why we stay there? Is to be very successful in the interview. So it is a need that your attention is very important, and you must have an effective listening during the interview process. What next? Be very clear and concise. So we have seen why voice is very important. I was telling you why listening skills are very important. And now just see the third point, very clear and concise. In case if you are asked a question, your answer must be very clear. What is meant by clear? To the point. Don't add any of your imaginative answers, or there can be always a place for your opinion, but that can be towards the end. First, answer to the core, which is called clear. Concise, be very sharp. Don't make it very lengthy unless it is a very lengthy answer. Try to be very precise, very clear, sharp, to the point, so that the interviewer will think that, okay, this guy, he knows the subject very well. This girl really knows or understands the subject very well. Or this lady has understood my question and the answer is very sharp. So that is they expect. They don't want people to waste their time. When a question is asked, if you're going to give unnecessary answers which may not be related to the question, they think something very bad of you. They don't even tend to listen to you. That's very common with all human beings like you and me. You are expecting something and you are getting an answer which is completely irrelevant. Naturally, we don't tend to listen to them anymore. Then they will stop their questions and they will say, thank you very much, we will update you. Are we there to get this kind of feedback? No. No. We are there in the interview process to prove that I am fit for this job. I can do much better than these expectations as well. So when our ambition is really good, make sure that we are going to be very successful, and for which your answer must be very clear, very focused, to the core. Being polite. That's the next important cues that you must have during the interview. Being polite. Sometimes I have noticed myself waiting in the interview room for a very long time. I don't say that I attend interviews, but I used to accompany my students, and I used to sit with them for hours together, patiently waiting for a call from the interview board. And I always tell my kids, it usually happens because we may not know what is happening at the back end unless we are updated. So there is always a possibility that the company must have planned for 10 minutes interview, and let's imagine every one of you who are in the interview hall are exceptional. Usually they will take a lot of time to check and select the best and best out of you. So naturally the time may go up. So the scheduled time may be till 12 o'clock, but it can go up to next to 12 o'clock, another 12 o'clock in addition to what they have planned. It naturally happens. So what you should know how to be patient. That's very important, and how to be very polite. Even at that stage, imagine that you are called after 2 hours of your scheduled time, you're going there. You must know how to be very polite. Being polite is something like a tiger very patiently waiting to catch its prey. Tiger never waits just like that. It is not of that kind. It takes time to catch its prey. Similarly, that is a quality which I request you to have, being very polite and have patience. Sometimes the interviewer may ask you questions which may touch your ego, or he may be sometimes rude because he must be very tired for a whole day. You must be the last person who takes that interview call. And there is always a possibility that he may be sometimes a little bit rude. That doesn't mean that you also should have the same attitude. You're going to win the interview. That should be at the back end of your mind. To win the interview, one of the best qualities that you must have is being polite. By being polite, you are going to be successful, boys and girls. So please keep that in mind. Whatever may be the question, sometimes you may be asked questions which you may not have an answer. There is nothing wrong. You always tell them, sir, I'm an expert in C++. I'm an expert in finance. I'm an expert in language assessment. So you tell your strong points, and very sure they'll be impressed to know from you that you are an expert in that. So they can change the question type to the area which you are expert, and they will check whether you can answer all the questions in which you claim to be expert. And if you can give all the answers, naturally nobody want to drop you out, because you may not be good in some other field, but you can be good in the field that you say that you are an expert, which shows that you are unique and you are excellent in a particular field. Sometimes the company may not need that position for the particular time, but they may consider your case after listening about your expertise in the particular field. So that is the success of being polite. So have very polite language, soft language, in other words. I don't say low voice. Here I'm not talking about voice. I'm talking about politeness, the way you answer in a very soft spoken method. Adopt that method, be very clear, and that will bring a lot of changes in your side. And make it a point that you're going to ask questions. So it is an interview. He is supposed to ask me a question, or the interview is supposed to ask me a question. Why should I ask questions? Nothing wrong. Sometimes the interview may ask you a question that may not be so clear for you. Probably he may be asking questions from his own experience or from her own experience, which you may not be aware. Probably you know the answer, but the way he asked you question may not be so clear to your level. So nothing wrong. You can always ask for a request. Sir, I'm very sorry to ask you again. Can you just repeat it? That's a good sign. Again, you are very polite. You are very humble. You are making a request, to repeat the question. That will give a very positive nod for you. So please keep that in mind. So asking questions is always good. So does asking question refers only to asking to clarify the question? No. You can even ask about the workplace environment at the end, in case if they are a little bit relaxed, if they ask you, come on, do you have any questions to ask me? So rather than asking for a pay, you can ask about the work environment. Sir, how is the work environment? Because I have seen many information from the website, but I don't find anything regarding the work environment, how it is. I'm very eager to know it. So will I be working in a team? So will I have a chance to work with you? Just see how positive your question is. So naturally, people want to hire people who wanted to commit themselves to the work environment. So ask questions like that. And lastly, be very, very active. Very active in the sense the interview process should be interactive. It is not one-man show. It is not one-way communication where the interviewer asks something, you tell something. Make sure that you create an environment where you have a lot of discussions between you and the interviewer. This will be very useful for you to express yourself, you express your knowledge, and again, that will create a very positive vibe inside the interview hall. So, hope you are very clear with what exactly I mean by verbal cues. Whatever you find in the website, all are related to any one of these topics, maybe directly or indirectly. Now let's look into the next important cues, which are called non-verbal cues. So what do you mean by non-verbal? It's very clear from the phrase non-verbal. You're not going to talk, you're not going to listen. You're going to communicate with our expressions. Just look into the video how I have a smile in my face. Whether I like it or not, I make sure that my audience or my listeners or my learners should never feel that this guy, he's very angry mood. I don't know when he has taken this video. Probably his salary must have not been credited properly. You should not guess my background just by seeing my face, because face is the index of mind. Whatever is your thought process will be reflected in your face. In the interview, we are not supposed to show the reflections of our mind. So that is called as non-verbal cue. Hope you understood it very clear what I mean by non-verbal cues. Whatever problems you have in the back end, your financial problem, your family problem, your personal problem, keep that aside, and express yourself as a very potential candidate for the interviewer. And the interviewer should feel that this candidate is really good, very smart mentally, and even knowledge wise. This candidate is really good. That is the impression that you're going to create in the interview, because you have cleared your technical rounds, you had a discussion with the production manager or personal manager, and right now you are in the interview phase where you're going to talk with another kind of manager, or it can be discussion with a HR manager. So it is a good opportunity that you have received, so you should never miss it, and your expression should not pull it down. You may be a very knowledgeable person. Just imagine, I want to show off. What is show off? I just want to show that I have much better knowledge than you. And if I'm going to talk all bullshits there, assuming that nobody knows anything except me, I don't have to say it verbally, but the gestures, hey, come on, hey, just keep quiet. I know it. Don't do it. Hey, what do you know, man? You know nothing. Ah, don't look at you. You are just like a small chick in front of me. So just see the expressions I show on you and what attitude you will think that I have. You can easily judge me. Hey, come on, this guy is a show-off guy. He knows nothing, but he wants to show as if he knows everything. That will pull us down in the interview. So non-verbal cues, the first important thing, your eye contact. Eye contact in the sense not staring at people. Hey, come on, hey. Are you just not living, just looking here, there, wherever the interview member looks, you also look here, there. Don't stare at people. Eye contact means, whenever they happen to ask you a question, just look into the eyes and talk. What happens if you happen to look into the eyes and talk? The first impression is that they will think that this candidate is very confident. I will tell you a small story. Whenever we do some small mischiefs at home, when our mother and father, they used to call us and ask, hey, Karthik, have you done this? Then, we don't even look at them. We look here, there. We pretend not to see their eyes because we have done something mischiefs in the home. So that will tell them very clearly, come on, I know you have done something, come on, tell me. Same like this here in the interview as well. In case, if you're not looking at them, they will think that, okay, this candidate is not so confident. So what is reflected from your eye contact? It shows that you are very confident with whatever stuff you have, whatever skills you have, whatever knowledge you have. So make sure that your eye contact is very professional without staring at them. So have a very pleasant look. Your eyes should talk. When I say I should talk, there is no need that you must go in ornamental eyes, nothing like that. You can always look good, but applying all whatever stuff you have to make your eye looking so glossy or looking so good, that's really appreciable. But see them and talk. That shows that you are very confident. That is the message I want to convey from this. And looking at people and talking will always tell that, hey, he dares to talk. He really has stuff. That's the reason why he looks at me and talk. In case if you just look into the thieves, they don't look at you. When they do some mischief, they never look at you. So looking at them and talking is always a good communication, non-verbal communication. And whenever you enter into the hall, you give a very firm handshake. What is firm handshake? Web to web. When I say web, what is a web I mean? This is a web. So web. So your web should go with web, web. Web to web, that is called as a perfect handshake. When I put my web like this. So see how it looks, web to web. This is one good practice which I usually have, having a handshake web to web, and hold it very firm. You may be a bodybuilder. That doesn't mean that you should go and crush somebody and make it very professional. You may be very lean. The interview member may be very strong as me. So that doesn't mean that you have to be very soft-spoken, very smooth, slightly touching. Have a very firm handshake. That shows that, he's ready. And that is one way of communicating that I'm ready for the interview, sir. I'm ready to answer your questions. So that shows that you are very positive and you are ready to face the interview. So handshake is also a non-verbal cue that you communicate to the interviewer that you are ready to answer their questions as well. Gestures. What is gestures? All your gestures. Now I say, hey, you. When I say, hey, you, it is considered to be an insult in some of the countries. I have this kind of experience. In my younger ages, or even when I started my career, I used to call a Kumar, a Sanjeev, come here, a Rajesh, come here. Later, I understood that we are not supposed to pinpoint at people. That's a bad gesture. So I have learned that pinpointing at somebody is considered to be an insult in many countries across the globe. Then when I talk globally, I should also think globally. I should also perform globally. So I have changed myself. And I started to teach these things to my kids as well, in the class as well as at my home. So what is the right way to say? So you show your hands. Hey, you, Karthik, come here. Hey, Karthik, come here. That's the right way to call somebody, or if you want to insist on some points. So let us not show our finger, rather show your hand. That's the best gesture that you can always show. I'll give you an example. Sometimes we have the habit of locking our legs when we sit. If you think that is comfortable, it's always good. But you should know the right way of sitting in a chair. And the sitting position always changes from chair to chair. And please make sure that which is the right way. You can always learn by yourself. And when I talk about gesture, there are different gestures which shows that you are very positive and you are very vibe. So try to accommodate these gestures as a practice before you enter into an interview hall. So the next important thing is dressing. What do I mean by dressing? In case if you are going for an interview, make yourself look so formal, because interview is a very formal platform, and make sure that you dress very well. In case if you're going to have light top, have a dark bottom. In case if you're going to have a dark shirt or dark tops, have a light bottom, and make sure that you wear a shoe or wear some footwears which looks so professional, not so glossy. You're not going for a fashion parade, or it's not a fashion statement that you want to show to people that, hey, I'm wearing a Gucci, I'm wearing a Maybelline lipstick. You're not going as a fashion statement to the interview. You're going as a professional entity. So make sure that you look so professional in the way you look. If you think that tie really suits you very well and you know how to tie very well, then you wear a tie. Don't wear a tie just like that because somebody have told you to wear a tie. Learn to wear a tie if you're a boy, and even if as a girl also you can also wear. Nothing wrong. And whenever you wear a dress, make sure that the dress really suits you. That's very important. Sometimes if you are wearing a very tight skirt or very tight pants, that may disturb you throughout the interview process. In the interview process, you have group discussion, you have technical rounds, non-technical rounds, personal interviews. So that may really disturb you. So wear any dress, a formal dress that really suits you and not so tight. Okay. So it's a little bit relaxed, and color combination is very important. So if you ask me, I can say whatever you wear, let it be in a lighter mode, not something like a fashionable or flashy dresses. So if you're going to have a suit, it's always good to go with a suit, in case if you're going for some good interviews as well. There is nothing like a good interview and bad interview. It depends on the employer who is going to call you. That's very important. And when I say dressing, also includes grooming. So make sure that you groom yourself. Make sure that you look so smart. In case if you think that powder is not for you, don't apply that. Somebody like me, I never apply powders, but in case if I'm going to apply powder, I look like a devil. Usually I look like a devil, but sometimes I look like a very bad devil. So naturally I don't apply powders. So if you don't have any practice earlier, don't do it for the first time. It is not a testing ground. The interview is not a testing ground for your personal attire changes and grooming. So if you think that Loose hairs really suits you very well, go with the loose hair. If you think that ponytail really suits you, you go with the ponytail. If you think that this kind of hairstyle really suits you, you can go with that. So you decide which is really good and which makes you very professional. Grooming is also part of dressing. That is what I try to mean. Dress as well as your grooming is very important. Go with a very clean shave. Some of the boys and men right now, they're very much fascinated with having a long beard, short beard, curly beard. So if you really think that it is optimum, it is really apt for you, then you can have it. Nothing wrong. But make sure that it looks so good. It makes you very smart. That's very important. And postures. What do we mean by postures? Whenever you are given a seat, make sure that you are seated very comfortably. The best way to sit is put your back till end of the seat. So when I say put your back till end of the seat, your body should be like this. See, it should be straight. So when you are straight, naturally, your body looks so good. They will think that you are ready. Come on, hey, see the way they sit, very enthusiasm. Your posture means a lot. Some companies have a molded chair. Some companies give you a cushioned chair. So make sure that whatever may be the chair, you put your back till the end of the seat so that your backbone is straight. You'll be very energetic as well. Scientifically, it is proved as well. So you should understand. Whenever you keep your backbone straight, naturally your posture looks so good, and you will be very energetic for a longer time, much better than a slight posture. So your posture means a lot. So make sure that you sit in very straight, very comfortably, in a very relaxed way, and that is most wanted. And if you think the interview is maybe extended for a long time, you can relax outside. But when you are called for the interview, please mind your posture. That's very important. Again, as I told you earlier, locking legs, in case if you're used to it, if you know exactly how to sit, it's always good. Because whenever you cross your legs, whenever you lock your legs and sit, your bottom of the shoe or bottom of the sandal that you are wearing should not be seen by the opposite person. I have seen people sitting in the airports and in the railway station in a very uncouth way. That's not flair. So you should know how to sit. That's very important. Even when you lock your legs in cross legs, you should know how to sit. And whenever you cross your legs, your body posture will be different. The posture will be different. So you should know how to adjust yourself and look so professional. That's very important. Sometimes you may be wearing a skirt. So you should know whenever you wear a skirt, how you should lock your legs. All these small things matters. So you may be wearing a tight pants, and you may be having a blazer. So you should know how to lock your legs. So you may be a boy or a girl. Locking legs is not a fault. It's not considered to be bad, but you should know how to lock your legs very professionally. And the very important thing is the facial expressions. I told you facial expressions. Have a very smiling face. It's not that you should always show your teeth. No, it doesn't mean that. Smiling face always keeping yourself very charm. That comes automatically when you're very confident. When you know everything. Don't even think of any bad elements it may be affecting me. Don't even have any negative feeling about you. Naturally, your expressions will be really good when you're very confident with the content that is expected from the company as well. Have a very flat facial expressions. You whenever you answer them politely, naturally your expressions also will be good. Have a very smiling face. You try to appreciate people in the beginning and end, as we discussed earlier. Appreciating is always good. In verbal communication, we have seen start with a handshake. Similarly, whenever you complete the interview, you again try to give a handshake, say thank you very much, sir. The way you express both verbally and non-verbally will make you very unique. Hope you understood the difference between verbal and non-verbal cues, and you also should know how important are these verbal and non-verbal cues. So if you ask me, sir, is there anything that I should do? Yeah, you must get prepared very well. So your verbal cues are very good, your non-verbal cues are very good. But if you don't have an answer for the question, again, it is going to pull you down. So very important thing, get ready with the content. Whatever may be the questions related to the job that is asked for, please get ready with the content. That's very important. Only when you know the answers, you can fill all these gaps like verbal and non-verbal cues. And there are many questions which are very common questions asked by the interview member, maybe by the HR or by the personal manager. So get ready with the answers for all the questions. So probably you can just surf and find out what are the questions that are usually asked in the interviews. Maybe if you are a fresher, what sort of questions they may ask you. If you are an experienced guy, what sort of questions they may ask you. So get ready for the answers, all feasible, to the point answer. And if you're a fresher, try to get more knowledge about your projects, your mini projects, your industrial experiences that you have gained through internship. Or sometimes you must have an experience working during your holidays in some small firms or with a small company. Or let's say that you have created a product for yourself or a project for yourself. Try to get as many information as possible before you enter into the interview hall, because you must have loads of information to be shared whenever they ask you the questions to tell with the answer. So the bottom line is that whenever you are entering into interview hall, you know, there must be garages that should be following you. Garages here, I mean, information about you should be ready, and it should be readily available to be expressed when and wherever you are given a chance. So that brings us to the end of this session on interview. Hope you have understood very well and you have found this information also very useful. My best wishes for you to be very successful in the interviews that you are going to have in your future. Thank you.